Again, guys. Hey, another again. Now this is part. I guess you can say part two or chapter two in my opinion. Now this is chapter two, Seal of the Forgotten Time, chapter two. Now to sit in the classroom inside of the academy for ninjas in training. A week after resting in the hospital, of course, he had been questioned by the second about where did he come from, but he forged ignorance but his origin, since obviously he had no clue about how he even got here at first place. And what worse, he had to attend the academy yet again. He didn't want to go to the academy again, but Tobirama had already spoken with the senseis about his enrollment, so it was out of his power. The blonde was obviously agitated. Back in his time, history was his absolute worst subject, more so than math. And how he's back in time, so you can obviously see the dilemma. I hate history, I hate history, I hate history. He continued to say his mind before a dimmer hit him. A light bulb went off his head. Wait a minute, I am history, he thought as tears come into his eyes. He fought back a sniff as the sensei walked and began to write on the board. The blonde had met with the sensei a couple days ago, and the man had visited him in the hospital. When the Hokage had first spoke to him, of course nothing was said about his bloodline, as absolute none of them had an idea about where it is from, excluding Naruto, who had an inkling about what it came from. Said Sensei, a man a jogging his Jonin style fluke jacket, as was in his early 20s. He had black hair and serious look on his face. That wasn't from Naruto what met. My name is Ichiu Ryuko. As you know, we are at war with two of the five great nations, constraining both Iwagakure and Kumogakure. As couple of small insignificant villagers, we have our nearest ally, Sanahagakure, to help us. But the tide in the war could only easily be shifted when Mizukage get forced into the conflict. Whatever side they join, we have the upper hand in this war. But fear not, from we are in the village of Konoha. If we survive the last war, we can only definitely survive this once, he said as his face softened up as he pumped his fist in the air. The student responds in a kind of pumped their own little fist. Even Naruto pumped his fist in the national pride, not wavering this time travel. Now let's begin with the introduction, starting with you, Riku said, pointing at Naruto. You didn't tell me your name and when we met in the hospital, but now, he said, smirking. Introduce yourself. The blonde stood in his feet. Hello, fellow classmate. My name is Naruto Uzumaki Naruto. I don't know where I am from, but I do not know that I was found 15 miles outside of Hinokuni. I don't know my parents, but after all, they left me in my name. Said tell them half the truth, since until recently all had from his pants was his name. The teacher held his hand up, stopping the blonde from continuing. This enough, child. All I wanted was your name, he said, studying him as he had heard the name from somewhere. It was at the tip of his tongue, but he couldn't remember. He dropped the issue and focused the class as a whole now. And this is a new batch of students. I would like to each of you stand and tell me your name, he said, pointing at the first student. Now to begin to sitting down as he looked around in the room. Before he noticed the blonde girl staring at him, she suddenly looked oddly familiar as the blue eyes bore in to recognize hazel eyes. As he turned his head and looked out the window, listening, the student began to tell the names caused their mind to drift. When they held the began to think his possession of the renegade, and the disappearance of the QB. He had remembered reading his mother's journal. It said that the ancient bloodline only came from the most unique of the Uzumaki clan, but Nagato had it. Did that mean he was an Uzumaki? And what exactly happened to the QB? Naruto thought as his ears picked up calling another student. My name is Shinju Tsunade, she said simply as she sat back down. Naruto focused on the class, and there she was, the same girl that he had shared a short staring contest with. Now he got a second look. He could completely recognize that she was young, really young version of Tsunade, and she had the same light blonde hair except it was shortened and small single ponytail. She was wearing a grey shirt and didn't contain any acid, unlike the one she when she got older. The con- the container was about to be the contains just the biggest pair of the marshmallow known as airman. Her hazel eyes were filled with both the love of the living with her parents and her granduncle, who was the second Hokage, and confused about the blonde across the room. Her pants were dark gray as she wore a basic ninja sandals. When he began to feel amazed by her young look, as he shook his head and forced himself not to slap himself. Of course, she was young. She was only 5 years old. She really did look like a complete construct of Tsunade he knew and loved, but now present with opportunity to witness the growth of Tsunade was making him not regret coming back in time. He shook his head again. Stop thinking about your surroundings, mother. Stop thinking about your mother figure like that, he said to himself in the mind. But the opportunity is truly the best ever happened. Maybe now she could be more than a mother, he thought again as the inner pervert began to fight his outer righteousness. He stopped in his inner battle when he heard Jiraiya introduce himself. He looked the same kind of the only difference was the red mark on his cheek were non-existent. He also doubted the kid was a leecher like his older self. Eroseni Naruto thought to keep tears falling from his eyes. He looked at his sensei, and it was Orochimaru. Either Naruto was playing trick on him or did Orochimaru actually took this kind of appearance. And the polite way he introduced himself was way more suspicious. The blonde scowled, thinking it was a trick as Orochimaru never be nice. The scowl left as his face only for replay with a temporary surprise, vaguely seeing the legendary Sannin so young and weak at the moment. This just added to the proof he somehow traveled back in time. It was Madara doing, as he didn't specialize in time but dimension. Wait, does this time-space ninjutsu count? Naruto thought to himself off-handedly. Alright class, that's enough for today. I expect you here tomorrow for much as long day. I will begin your training, he said, seeing some of his students gone in displeasure. Now, none of that. The war demanded more ninja to fight our advantage, and that time I came in here to whip you children into battle ready ninja, he said, dismay as the class students looking forward to enjoy their last peaceful day. Now to walk out of the class with a thoughtful look in his face. His inner furball hadn't said a single thing or even made a single noise since he came to this time. Hey furball, are you there? The blonde yelled into his mind. No answer, just like the other time. Maybe he needed to go into his mindscape to comfort the giant and may shift of chakra. But now that wasn't the time to worry about the fox. Now that was the time to find a place to reside in. Since he couldn't stay in the hospital forever, no matter how nice the nurses were. He headed to the only place where he could have a home, going to given at him at age. Naruto appeared at the Hokage Tower, realizing that with the memories his skill also remained. The blonde was beyond aesthetic. He didn't have to worry about the staying in the academy if he already had the same skill in the prevent him from losing the fight against Sasuke and lasting as long as he did against Madara. This made him think about the past as he walked into the building. No, not the past, the future, but also his past or future. Now to shook his head at the confusing thought as he walked into the office with a beastly grin. Hey, old man. Tobirama looked at Naruto with a shocked look on his face. The other occupant in the room chuckled at the greetings. It seems he's more experienced than you laid on, Tobirama sensei. The young sage looked at the other occupied to see the far younger version of the grandfather figure in his past life. Gigi, he thought, keep a grin to his face and prevent you from falling on the floor. Naruto-kun, that I have told you to call me, not to call me that. I'm not even old, Tobias said, resting his chin on the other hand. Naruto smiled, seeing both Gigi's. Well, compared to my age, you're pretty old, he said, simply smiling widely. Oh, we do have a 25 gap in our ages, unless you're not thirsty like you told me, he said, slightly bouncing at the balls of his feet. Person looked at the young sage in slight amusement. Are you sure you're only 5? He said, chuckling at one question. Oh, you have no idea now, Naruto, smiling, even widening at the possibility. Tobirama let out a big sigh. Forget about what his age could be. Oh, where are my manners? Naruto, this is Subitoru Hiruzen. Me and my brother have taught him everything he knows. Hiruzen, this is Uzumaki Naruto-kun, the child I told you about. So Suritobi looked at Naruto, thought, Naruto-kun, do you know anything about Uzumaki Mito? He asked, getting confused look from the blonde. Never mind, Naruto-kun. I forgot to ask you, he said, leaning back in his chair. Keep his other question out of his mind since it wasn't his business. Tobirama could see that the child did not have an idea about anybody from his own clan. So he decided to change the subject. So Naruto-kun, what are you doing here? The blonde looked at the cage. I don't have a place to stay. I came to ask you for an apartment. The two others looked at Naruto before staring into the look. After a short, they began to laugh. The irritated Naruto obviously, why are you laughing? This isn't funny, he yelled with his Rinnegan blazing to life, radiating in anger and a weird, dangerous, silly aura surround Naruto. The future cages stop their laughter when they later see the mist aura appear around the obvious blonde. Calm down, Naruto. We just find it amusing. A child like your age want to live by themselves, and sort of awkward, not saying by yourself. The Renegan and the aura disappeared. Naruto let out a nervous chuckle. Yeah, this is awkward, isn't it? He said, rubbing his back and head in embarrassment. But where else I can stay other than the... He stopped when he noticed the case smile before getting bigger and bigger and more. He said, you're not thinking what I'm thinking, are you? After a nod of the cage head as the blonde shook his. No disrespect, Hokage-san, but I decline your offer. Tobin smirked at the blonde. Nonsense, I have already completed the paperwork. All I need is to your signature, he said, opening his drawer and taking out a piece of paper. Here you go, sign this. Access, he said, giving out a pen. Now to steal this line, I don't want to impose on you and your family, he said, leaving the paper in front of him. You're not, it's me, my nephew and his wife and my grandnieces, he said, smiling softly. Yeah, you mean, he said, broke the door behind, opening. A young Tsunade ran to her uncle. Oh gee, son, she said, running straight to her granduncle. Hopping over Naruto at the desk and landed right on his chest, and proceeded to hug the living life out of him. Oof, he grunted as Tsunade landed on his chest. Tusi-chan, how was your first day at academy? Nothing really interesting happened, but there was one other blonde boy That was even more interesting sermon. What was it again? She thought, murmuring his finger into her chin. Thought Uzumaki. Naruto said, knowing that he was the one he was the one that she was talking about. She turned her hazel eye toward him and gasped in surprise, seeing him once again soon. What are you doing here? She asked, turning her body to sit on her granduncle's lap. Naruto began to sit up slowly, remembering the temper Tsunade had from this time, and wondered no hope if he didn't come to the surface now. Well, you see, there is a funny story about that, he said, looking at Tobirama, silently asking for help. Really, a funny story. Can I hear? She asked, obviously about an odd behavior. Well, you see, to Tsunade-chan, Naruto-kun here is going to be staying with us, the Hokage said. Why? She screamed. I didn't really actually sign the paper yet, Tsunade-san, the blonde boy said. Well, good, don't. It's not that easy, Tusi-chan. I want Naruto-kun to be live with a family, and I don't like you being lonely in the house, Tobirama said. I'm not alone. I have Tosen and Kasan. She whined. And plus, he could live with Mito-san. She is an Uzumaki, she said, looking at her granduncle. That's a negative. Tsunade-san, Sisu-chan. Naruto here doesn't know about Mito-san or his clan, he explained. The Horizon then began to watch the scene. As he had to think something before got out of hand. Soon as the idea, how would I take Naruto into my house, interrupted the small. All I was set on Sotobi, really Sotobi-san, Naruto said, hoping his old grandfather figure was serious about his offer. He nodded. Sure, it's because I'm 20. It doesn't mean I don't know how to take care of kid. Plus, after the death of mother and father in the last war, I can sympathize with the little bond, he said, leaning and rubbed Naruto's head. Said Blondie scrums from under the man's head and smiled at Tobirama. I agree with that idea. I can please. He pleaded in the second with Tsunade joining in. Then in the second closed his eyes and shook his head. This causes the blonde to looked at each other and nod. When the second opened his eye, two puppy dog eyes jutsu were upon him. One pair of dearly hazel eye and one pair of ocean blue eyes. Oh, my only weakness, he thought before he dropped his head in silent defeat. The two blondes cheered as wanted to have a high five, but they knew we were too far apart from each other. So Saratobi chuckled, thinking back how the playful blonde was not even 10 minutes ago. Such a strong aura and the odd dojutsu of his. I must find out more about it, he thought, watching as Tobirama made a new document as they all signed it. The street of Konoha. The happy young sage was walking through the village with Saratobi at his side. He was even more amazed by all people walking in the village, since this was obviously before the Second Third War, as the Kiwi reduced the population. This brought his attention back to the subject, to the fox. Since he was back, his chakra or mind or something go back to his body or time or what? He well, what are you when are we going to get to your house? He asked, looking at Saratobi. Horizon smiled. What do you mean? We are here, he said, walking toward the two-story house. I recently moved out of the small compound because even with its size, it's not too big for one person, he explained, closing the door. The house was a simple medium-sized living room, large kitchen, and with an island dinner table, two bathroom and three bedroom, a study library. Don't you think it's the same thing? Naruto asked. What do you mean? Well, you move out of your compound only to move into a large house. Don't you think it's the same thing? Naruto asked, yawning a little. Saratobi walked into the kitchen to get some water. I guess you are right. Yet again, you surprise me, he said, walking into the living room to find Naruto asleep Sorry, just fucking crow flew out of my head. He said, walking into the living room to find out sleeping on the couch. Wilson smiled as he bought a spare blanket from his closet and put it over the child's body. He rubbed his head and walked up to the stair and fixed the guest room for a new little brother. Now to walk through his mind after falling asleep to the couch. It was the only opportunity he had to literally jump into his mind. He walked around the merry fucking sewer water. He looked down into the reflection to see the 70-year-old self. This was further proof that he noticed that he was taller and his hand were bigger. He focused his eyes to see the renegade. Seeing it from Wilder, seeing it was young self. He looked around, noticed the pipe. It was pipe that separated his chakra pathway were much more large and gold, silver, and thin of blue. I don't remember my chakra being this color, but then again it seems right for some reason, he thought as he continued to walk by his mindscape. The more he walked into, the more perplexed he became. By the time he could hear the fox either calling him toward the cage room or its snoring, but now it was silent, but put on edge. He walked into the room to see a cage, but there was nothing behind it. He squinted his eyes at the cage, but he barely could make out the outline of the fox's body. After having it slightly be fully visible, it looked asleep, but he could tell something else was wrong with it. He stepped in as he shocked to feel a small earthquake. He even more shocked to see the figure of the fox breaking down, collapsing onto the floor. Soon as he remained, as the darkness remained of the fox fully distracted as Naruto, who was completely speechless. Sochi, is that you? A voice asked from what seems like everywhere. The blonde became more alert as he jumped back, and while everything around him to turn to be sunlight, cleaning with absolute no trees and hide behind. He looked around to find the intruder, keeping the amazed look in his face and sudden change of his area. He turned completely around to see a woman behind him, and when he remembered what oddly familiar the woman said to him, "Son," he thought about taking a closer look at the woman. He fully realized she was indeed his mother. How did you get into my mind? What happened to the QB just now? How did the area turn out like this? Why do I have the renegade? He nearly screamed the last question at her. Kushina walked to her son after combing her red hair, blowing a non-existent wind. She wore a plain red kimono and hid a full pair of breasts, a black obi tie around her waist. The blonde noticed that she said it wasn't similar that a hologram he had witnessed. His mother house back in the original time. She was barefoot, allowing the grass to trickle her feet. She smiled at the beverage of the question, and tears pricked at the corner of her eye. One question at a time, she said before engulfing her son into a hug. At first the blonde relaxed into his mother's embrace, but anger rubbed into surface. He grabbed her shoulder and pushed her back a little. Keep a hold of her. Do you have any idea what kind of life I have lived? How dare you act like that? You haven't distracted me, he said, letting her go and taking a step backward. I have had about the worst childhood in the history of Konoha. It's all your fault, he spoke to her between clenching his teeth. Not clenching, I'll just say gritting his teeth. Is being only one thing keeping from lashing out. The tears fell from mother's eye before she sniffed her own anger raising surface. You really think it's my fault for dying? How selfish of you to think something like that. You have no idea what I went through to get into the position that I am at the moment, she told her son, her tone being borderline murderous. She was mad at her son. You really think I wanted to leave a baby in an infant son alone in the village? That I know that was going to hate you, with you being the host of the demon that just killed most of their loved ones and guaranteed that they will resent you? She scowled at him. This angered Naruto more than could have, and he activated Rinnegan in anger. Kushina smirked, seeing Naruto's bloodline in her son, and smirked, being more prideful. It seems like I touched their nerves somehow. Well, it seems like I touched a nerve somehow. Well, let's see if you know how to use the legendary eyes, she said, getting into stance. My thought exactly, Naruto said, running straight through her mother. 1 hour later. The crimson-haired mother stood over her child softly, shaking her head. You did pretty good at your only strength was your regular skill. Your skill with your eyes are absolute horrendous. By the time I was at your age, I already mastered the different technique these eyes have to offer, she said. After the short fight with his mother, Naruto, whose blood was covered in cut and bruise, Naruto, whose body was covered in cuts and bruises, couldn't find the energy to move like his limbs. He stayed lying on the floor, looking at the sky, cloudless sky. The apparent anger he held for his mother ended long with the fight. He turned his head to his mother, whose body without ha ha ha. Huh. He held after a short fight with his mother, Naruto, whose body was covered in cuts and bruises, couldn't find the energy to move like his limbs. He stayed laying in the floor, looking at the cloudless sky. His apparent anger held for his mother has long ended with the fight. He turned his head to look at his mother, whose body was without a single scarf. Of course, I received these new eyes of mine. Wait, what do you mean you mastered these eyes? He asked, bolting his feet, surprising his mother. How is he moving so soon after he was beaten? He just endured. She asked herself. She was brought back into reality when she heard a question being asked again. It seems you still understand, she said, shaking her head before pushing Naruto back. Naruto's body was first across the floor before it landed, making a small crater. The blonde yet again watched the cloudless sky. I'm so tired of this technique, he thought as his mother appeared as his vision. You see, son, these eyes only show up in a few shinobis of the Uzumaki clan. Only 5 others have ever had the privilege of having these eyes. In the last 200 years, she spoke, extending his hand to help her son up. Naruto reached for it and said, that still does not explain what happened to the Kyuubi or why do I have these eyes? He started standing to his feet. She shrugged her shoulder. Apparently you are of a select few which untold of a parent with the eyes breed another that eye. Even more amazing, this happened. What happened to the Kyuubi? I have no idea. If I was taken I guess I could say that when you activate your eye, you unlock the seal and fully has spotted the beast, she said, as the trees were added and clearing. Naruto pondered. What about mother? Naruto take the information what his mother told him before. He got another question. But if I ask about the Kyuubi, shouldn't my chakra be crimson or blue? Or blue? Why is silver? He asked, leaning against the tree. It doesn't look like I have the answer, she snapped, scaring her mother. She covered her mouth and blushed in embarrassment. Sorry for the short fuzz. The blonde sighed and took it. That's my mother, all right, he thought, remembering his own short fuzz until thought of, wait, since I'm back in time, I'm still your son or what? He asked, getting confused look. I never wondered about that. Technically, you will be older than me by time. I have you. That's if you don't change the history or anything, she said, mumbling the last part. Well, still doesn't look like. Yeah, he said, interrupting her with a wave of his hand. Okay, I have a question. Can you answer too, actually? What are you doing in mine, and just how did you get here? He asked, crossing his hand. pushing across her own arms under her bust. That reason I'm in your mind is to teach you how to use your gun. Exactly how did I get here is a story for another day, she said, chuckling at look at Naruto that gave her. Now it's time for your mind test along with your body. I'll see you again, my son, she said as Naruto faded from view. The real world next day. Naruto woke up with a yawn, forgetting about the trip to his mind. As he sat at the bed, as he scent of the bacon egg invented his nose. He looked around and found himself inside a plain-looking room, laying in the bed as bigger than his body. He looked down to see that he was in the same chair from yesterday. He got up the bed, noticed a pair of dark gray training sweat and thighs, a sleeveless light gray shirt, as his stomach growled, and he promptly took a bath and changed into the grey clothing. He felt a little loose to him, but he just shrugged as he shrugged his shoulders and walked downstairs. Thinking a good prank, he lowered his chakra signature and sneakily snuck up to the secretary. Good morning, Naruto. I see your energy has returned with the nap you took, said the brown-haired man, turning around and popping the young blonde in the head with a smile. Itai, Naruto said, rubbing his head. That hurt. Why did you do that? He said, tears across the edge of his eyes. Huizen smiled at the young child in front of him. Nice try, Naruto-kun. I'm not going to fail for that unlike Sensei, I am immune to that, he said, turning back into cooking food. He thought as Naruto grumpily walked to the table. So, what's the plan for today? Naruto asked as Horizon set a plate of bacon and the egg in front of him. Well, you're going to the academy and I'm going to get ready for a mission, so to be said, as mission hawk began to peek into the kitchen. A hawk peeked into the kitchen in the window. The blonde groaned as he remembered that having to go to school. He quickly ate his breakfast and exited the house. He found himself in the section of the village where the clan said the village reside, of course. The Sutubi clan, even though Huizin was the last one, it was still considered a clan in the eyes of the village, only because the strength widened by Huizin. The point being, he was on other side of the village, far away from the academy. Luckily, he had an hour before 8. The blonde gave a small smirk as he used Shinshin to vanish from his spot. Unknown to someone who had watched the blonde later exited, one who had been watching his subordinate little brother through the window as a little surprised to see the blonde vanish with a C-rank supplementary technique. A child shouldn't be able to do that technique, let alone even more chakra. Who exactly are you now, Uzumaki Naruto, he thought. Naruto walked into the training ground, finding an empty well, not entirely one. Young Orochimaru was seen punching the raw and pale log. Naruto tried not to shear, but shear just happened to creep into his face. The blonde wanted nothing but to... I thought there was a fucking tarantula here, sorry. He was preventing from... So let's start. Naruto walked into the training ground, finding empty. Well, not entirely. One young Orochimaru was seen punching on one recently placed a log. Naruto tried not to shear, but shear just happened to creep onto his face. The blonde wanted nothing more just to kill the future S-rank criminal. He was prevented from doing so when Orochimaru turned around. Oh, I didn't realize I had an audience. Hey, you're the Uzumaki kid. It's a pleasure to meet you in personally, he said, walking up Naruto and extending his hand. The blonde wanted much as to be rude and leave him hanging, but a sort of impany. Maybe he could not prevent Orochimaru from becoming evil. Maybe he could prevent Orochimaru from becoming evil, and he'll be his ally in the future. He smiled and extended his own hand, shaking the hand of what he wanted to sure command. And you, Orochimaru, it's too pleasure to meet you, the one. Search yourself, the blonde spoke to the pale child. Through Orochimaru was dressed in novel-looking kimono. He was outside in the dirt, training to get stronger. At the moment, Orochimaru resembles anything dealing with nobility. So, you are here to watch me train, or you are here for a little sparring match to test skill, of course. He spoke, taking a few steps back. If this is what you have the skill at, bouncing the ball in his feet, then relax, he's ready to stand. The blonde smiled. Cocky little brat, he thought, as he began to studying the young fighter in front of him. Based on what he knew about the adult version of Orochimaru was slippery like the other snake would be, but the Orochimaru was different. Adults always anticipating the move of his opponent, and what master strength on the level of any Nara. This version was any different from what he. But a minute later, Bond finally slid into the staff stand, not ready to reveal any skill at the moment. A corner Heaney moment had a original change at the blonde. Now to waited until the last moment to relax his strength and snuff at the right narrow dodging punch. Apparently he didn't move far enough to Orochimaru dropped a sweater under a feet. Now Naruto acted fast as he shot a hand in the ground and reinforced it with chakra before using it pushed back in the ground. He vanished. He volted himself a few feet back and landed in his feet. As he landed, Orochimaru was already on him, sending punches and kicks that were all blocked or dodged. I think I spoke soon. My taijutsu isn't good as I thought it would be. Because a small body, he thought, catching a picking Orochimaru up, throwing him across the field. 5 minutes had passed at the fight. Naruto could tell Orochimaru was just getting started. What a few hands seal. There was the three copy Orochimaru appeared. Let's see if you can handle this. He spoke as the three copy chilled and charged. Naruto smirked, letting his Anakin flash into existence only for a second himself changed a bit. Instead of going off one in the middle, he veered the left and sent to punch knocked the unsuspecting Orochimaru on the ground. The other two clones disappeared from existence. My Renegan was able to determine which one were the fake and which one was real. Such short amount of time. I love this thing, he thought, staring at the boy in the ground, or rather a small amount of blood leaking from his lip. Nothing else was visibly wrong with him. Sorry about that. I got a little carried away, Naruto said, extending his arm. Orochimaru shook his head. No apologies needed. This has just showed me I need to work on my taijutsu more, he said, allowing Naruto to help him. And plus I need to learn to dodge your wicked left hook, he said as he shared a laugh. Well, I must be on my way. I don't want to show up at the academy late. Looking like that, he said, trying to fail to brush the dirt off his kimono. I see you later, Naruto, he said, running back to the village. Naruto sighed, looking down at his own gear. It wasn't dirty as he thought it would be because he never ate like the floor, never ate the floor like Orochimaru. He was a little sweaty through. That was nothing. 10 minutes later, the blonde was walking around about 10 minutes before he found himself at the same spot and spent a lot of time. I'd expect that one thing was important mission. What the fuck is the Ichiraku ramen stand? Where the fuck is the Ichiraku ramen stand? He sheared his head. Surely I believe Ryuichi and Sabutori were the same age, he thought as he witnessed a short boy walking with his father. Said the father walking the boy to the civilian school. Naruto air heard the word, "Are you ready for school, Ryuichi-kun?" And a response, "Ha, toes," and Naruto felt like pulling his hair out of. He didn't know how long he would last without the best ramen in the world not existing yet. classic enemy tear fell into his tears as his face suddenly tugged his way to the academy. With his current pace, it took him a while to enter his classroom. As soon as he sat in the seat in his seat, his head dropped into the desk, sending a loud thud to the class. The class wasn't full, but there was a few students in there, including Tsunade. They was all washed out, not knowing what was the matter. Naruto felt a hand on his shoulder. He looked up to see Orochimaru smiling at him. What's the matter with you? You should be happy you defeated me because it won't be ever happen again, he said, chuckling as he sat down. Naruto smiled. Yeah, sure, because you win against your my win against you was a total fuck, he said sarcastically, practicing a dropping from his voice. Ocean's back. You're damn right. Oh, right, wait. As he smirked off his face, the involved heard a loud noise. The children turned around to see Jorah, his face and wisp of smoke around him. Naruto looked at the wooden floor to see a long scratch from one Jorah great poor Erosanin. I hope it doesn't get worse, the blonde thought as Jorah wiped his face, quickly appeared behind Tsunade and surprising the bond with his speed. Oh, TC-chan, please don't pay attention what just happened. You deserve the only best of the best entrance, babe, he said, taking a female blonde's hand and kissing it. Well, that would have happened if Tsunade didn't use the righteous female fury punch him and he'd sent him out of the open window that was on the second floor. I don't even know you, leecher, she said, raising a fist at the open window. Naruto's eye widened at the event. Holy crap, it's just like always. Well, at least we aren't on the third floor, Naruto sighed, shaking his head. Shortly after, the teacher walked into a room with the Jorah on his shoulder. What's happened? He asked, sitting Jorah down. The white-haired children didn't have a didn't have a skiff or dirt on him except where he fell on the floor as his bruised cheek. Sensei must have caught him, everyone thought the same thing. Well, long story short, the dope was being a pervert, Orochimaru said. Naruto cringed at the little hearing a word. What do you mean? What do you mean? The year just started. Orochimaru shrugged his shoulder. That's it. I may only could tell he's going to be the dead last of the year. Naruto shook his head. You never know. A dead last could be a Hokage if he had a proper training, he said, knowing not effect to happen to the Jorah's training due to him becoming a cage level ninja in the future. Really, you think I can become stronger? Jorah asked, in hope in his eyes. Naruto looked at Jorah, staring into his eyes, and recognized that look. He didn't need to possessive aura around the look and determination, a hint of hope. The blonde remembered that Jorah was an orphan as well, needed to boost his self-esteem. With a nod, the blonde's head. The blonde nodded his head. Jorah smiled brightly and looked at his sons. I'm ready for whatever you throw at me, he said confidently. Ryuko's eye went from Jorah to Naruto. To think he has a kind of ability to bring anybody's self-confidence to surface. A true moral booster, possibly a leadership material. He smiled as he turned around and walked in front of the class. Excellent. I shall bring your training now. Trust me. You stop hating. You start hating me when it's finished, he said vigorously, as the student looked and gulped. Oh, please, how bad it can be. It's going to be a piece of cake. Naruto unknowingly thought out loud. It was too late. He realized his mistake. Ryuko smirked. Oh, really? He said, chuckling darkly. Currently, the blonde was evading the strike of three students, Tsunade, Jiraiya, Orochimaru. Each of the students were wearing dark grey training pants. Naruto was wearing a very dark orange shirt. Tsunade was wearing green blouse. Jiraiya was wearing a dark red and Orochimaru was wearing a blue shirt. Of course, the color had a purpose. As Naruto dodged another strike, kicked Jiraiya in his stomach. Red, Ryuko yelled. The male blonde released a small sigh of relief as he charged at Jiraiya, along with the rest of the participants. Tsunade was the first to approach Jiraiya, sending a punch in his way, desperate on his life. Jiraiya quickly formed a seal before he was connected to his face. A wood log replaced a white-haired child. A large dent with a multiple crack appeared on the dense log from Tsunade's punch. Jiraiya appeared in air behind Orochimaru and kicked his head. Said, said child used his snake-like ability to duck his head under the approaching leg, and twisted his body around, grabbed the other foot, and slamming Jiraiya onto the floor. Sadly for Orochimaru, the body vanished into another log. He couldn't react the time, dodge the next punch. Unfortunately, he was protected by Naoto, who caught the punch that would be connected with Orochimaru's amazing job protecting your teammate. The male blonde heard his teacher yell. Naruto did not have the time or congratulate himself or praise as Jiraiya tossed over his shoulder. A quick sweep, Orochimaru's feet from under him. Tsunade was about to punch Jiraiya and stop as she heard his sensei yell blue. This time it was Orochimaru's turn to evade his classmate. He quickly pushed himself off the ground and formed a ram seal. Shortly, 8 clones appeared around him. Which one is the real me? He said. Jiraiya and Tsunade turned each to Naruto, who always could see this kind of trick. They were surprised to see him not to see him in the sight. Currently, Naruto was in the air, using chakra to rock himself into the air, prevent any of them seeing his eyes. He smirked. Just because they are not regular clones doesn't mean you could evade my eyes, he said, softly deactivating his Rinnegan, which he had extreme training for attack. The one on the far right, he yelled to his teammate as he dropped the far left as he began to destroy Earth clone. With his hand increased electricity, the sensei Ryuko shot from the sidelines with a proud smile on his face as he watched his absolute best student training his team exercise. I don't need to explain the exercise, do I? It was obvious that the three students most benefit from his intense training, or the other didn't say any long after the amount of injury they sustained. It's truly a shame, he thought, as he looked at his other students. None of them were special like the four on the training field. They didn't have the Midas mindset to go into the battlefield, and truly they are entirely battle ready at the moment. They are only children after all. But this was something else entirely, he thought as he returned his gaze to the training field. Green, he yelled, seeing Tsunade not becoming a defensive. After 5 minutes, Tsunade defended herself and evading every possible hit. Ryuko ended the training. Excellent, truly amazing. Your four are truly my greatest pupil, he said, chuckling now. For evaluation, Tsunade being a girl, I wanted to lighten your training a bit. I'm glad you forced me not to. You truly are reaping and the benefiting of my training. Jiraiya, the booster in the beginning of that year, was just you need to raise up from being a loser to an eye of your classmate. Orochimaru, a genius in the eye of many prodigies in the eye of the rest of the true ninja of the area. Last Naruto, I believe you were all talk, but you have proven me wrong. With your stages of battle, and whenever things go wrong, you were always able to think on your feet and exactly what needed to the battlefield. I would pass off each of you if I could, he spoke, confusing his student. What do you mean, sensei? Of course you could pass us. We are all good. We are too good to sit in the classroom, Jiraiya said, puffing his chest. Believe it or not, I agree with the pervert on this one, Orochimaru said. Hey, I'm not just a pervert. Jiraiya tried to say, but it was too late. Tsunade and Orochimaru covered their their eyes closed. I am a super pervert. Jiraiya yelled with a huge firework erupting out of nowhere. Jura stood in a pose with a peace sign high in the air. Ryuko stood there with a check mark on his head as he promptly smacked the child in the back of the head. What have I said about being an idiot? He said, running his hand through his hair to reveal a bit of his frustration. He let out a huge sigh. Like I was saying, I can graduate all four of you unless you pass the graduation test in a few years. Also, never in the history of there has been a five-man cell, so four won't be able to get together, he said. Oh, I beg to differ, a voice heard. Hokage-sama, Reiko said. As he turned his around to see whoever disturbed his class. What are you doing here, Hokage-sama? Okage-sama, what are you doing here? Then the second and the Sarutobi were seen walking up to the small group. Oh, I was just in the neighborhood and wanted to check on my grandniece and her friends when I heard what he said. He said, stopping in front, said the girl rubbed her head. What exactly does that mean? Naruto said softly, smiling, noticing the twinkle in his niece's eye. It means that I have decided to take all four of you as my student. Congrats on four of you will become legend. Horizon said, crossing his arm as Naruto cheered, taking his dark orange shirt off and tossed it in the air before running at the professor. The shirt thudded into the ground with a loud thud. That didn't surprise the class, but it did surprise Yuko. Wait, Naruto, how much did your shirt weight? said Sensei. Said walking to the shirt. The male blonde inwardly cursed himself out for forgetting. 50 pounds like everybody else had? Riku stared into Naruto's eye. You're lying to me, he said, simply picking up the shirt. Now tell me. Naruto mumbled answer. Excuse me, Riku. Excuse me? Riku asked. 55? The sensei shook his head. Do you understand how reckless that is? You could injure yourself beyond repair with that much weight down in your small body. At the age of 6, Naruto was very much shaped, as his body was very lean and muscular, with a little fat from the large amount of food he eats. To keep his energy, he kept a perfect balance between muscle and fat. Sensei, he is not only one. Sensei, it's not only one, Jura said. I myself have 35 pounds, he said, taking off his own shirt, tossing it behind. A third voice sounded just like Naruto's. As well as I, Sensei, Orochimaru said, taking off his own shirt. Everybody stared at Tsunade. What? I only had 25. I'm not crazy like they are, she said, crossing her arms. And I'm not taking my blouse off, she added, glaring at Jiraiya. It's not like you have to hit anything in the flat chest, he said, crossing his own arms. Tsunade growled, what do you expect? I'm 6, she said. And I'm gonna kill you, Tsunade screamed, ready to use her some female fury before Tobirama stopped her. Whoa, really? Wow. You'll calm down, acting like a bunch of kids. Ryuko said, we are kids, the four children said to their sensei. Oh yeah, I keep forgetting because 6-year-old I'm supposed to be nearing tuning level, he said, with a pride and itching in his voice, since he did a major part in that. Well, we are a great pair of children, Naruto said off-heartedly. Oh no, you Naruto-kun, you're different. I could sense there was something odd about part of the other three, Ryuko said, taking a small step toward the blonde male. What do you mean? I could possibly be any different, Naruto said, hiding behind Horizon. Now that he said, it's Naruto-kun, I do believe I noticed something about your past year. You made it for hours only to fall asleep after training yourself constantly. Before After school, like you were always trying to regain something you lost, he said, shooting out from him. I was going to, but I would like to see Ryuko's and test your skill. The blonde glared at Subi before turning his gaze to Ryuko. Can I at least wait until tomorrow when I regain my energy? Yeah, come on, Sensei. At least give Naruto-kun a time to prepare for fight, Tsunade said. And just because he's different doesn't mean give any reason for you try to fight him, Jiraiya said with anger in his voice. It's illogical to fight a child. You are a Junin, for crying out loud. He's only 6, Orochimaru said. If you fight him, you will fight. If you fight us, Jiraiya said, moving in front of Naruto before beginning to join the rest of them. Ryuko stopped. No, just look at your friends. He is ready for anything, he said, seriously looking at Naruto. The blonde head is down as he bang overshadowing his eyes, smirk appeared on his face as he started to grinning. You're right, Uchi sensei. After all, de- deception is the most basic skill of a shinobi must have. If you really up to the task, how about I show you just how strong I am, as his Renegan eye fully at display. Now to seen with a look like a 20-pound boulder on his shoulder, while walking on a bridge of earth surrounding by water and water shark lurking, waiting for him. I may spoke too soon now to mumble to himself as he began to walk across the bridge, 1 foot at a time. The top of the building was Ryuko, furtherly weighted down. He was currently laughing his ass off. Do you fear my training now, Naruto-kun? It's easy for you, or do I need up here and you need to get up here, and he said laughingly. Naruto took another steady step. Why do I have to do this exercise while everybody else has a boulder? Don't they don't have a bridge or nothing? You are a sadistic, he said, taking another step. Oh, please, this is a piece of cake, isn't it not? The sensei said, laughing louder. Now to turn to other. Are you still doing, and you are still doing here? Run, this guy is crazy, he said, only a kunai to drop from above slightly, and cut his cheek before whip coming out of nowhere and hit his behind. Go faster, Naruto-kun. I said it was going to be easy, he said, laughing again as he whipped Naruto again. You crazy, he said as he went faster. It was a madhouse. Previously on C. Now let's just get on. Should I do it or not? Fuck. Okay. Surprise was itched on the face of everybody at the sight of unknown purple dojutsu. The sight of Tobirama, the sight of the Renegan, will be the third time for Tobirama and second time for Hiruzen. It will be forever the first time anyone has witnessed the eyes with such intense concentration. The blonde stared at his opponent, Sensei, knowing that he as the blonde stared at his opponent or Sensei, knowing that he is going to be surprised. He is going to surprise his Sensei with what has come. Of course, he knew that he wasn't going to be victorious in the fight. He wasn't meant to. It was a test of strength, a test to see how strong he is, and if anywhere near his old strength. Although sorry. All through suspiciously the raw and willpower of the QB for the peaceful, as the fiercely destructive power of the Renegon was beginning along quick. Alright, Natukun, if you do against that man, Natukun, if you do well against that man, I will give you a special technique to train. The blonde heard his mother say from inside his mind. Now to drop to his he dropped into a stance. No, if mother when no, if mother when and after I am through with the fight, I'll be waiting for the training. I wonder what it is going to be. He messed. He thought, sorry. The redhead rolled her eyes. Overconfidence is never a good thing for a shinobi. Oh, should have just fight the man, I was thinking. I should just teach you. She spoke firmly, breaking their ink after finishing talking. Now to continue to focus on his sensei as he dropped into his own stance. I know you are going to be sponge for knowledge immediately after our first lesson. I taught you well at the art of deception, he said, chuckling. Now let's see if you have the strength to back up your deception, he said, pushing his foot off the ground, jumping backward as the blonde threw a fury of shuriken. As Ryoko flew through the air, as he threw his own set of shuriken at the previous set. Most of them thrown projected collide with each other and other harmlessly. Few of their intent target now to appeared behind Ryuken and set a punch at a small man's back. The blonde through the attack had the power to paralyze and run the career of any ninja. If it connect, he was not surprised when his fist phased through the teacher's body. The body's decision, the banishing. You made a switch at precisely at the moment they two messed out loud. Nice speed, the Jonin said, heading the blonde. He was surprised when instead of the blonde trembling across the landscape, a puff of smoke cloud of his version, cage vanishing. But how? The Jonin left out a small smokeless only for his face to personally met Naruto's fist. Ryuko was sent back into the fading smoke, out on the other side, where he right hand himself landed on his feet. Impressive, Naruto, he said, wiping a small amount of blood from his lips. I don't know when you learned the cage vanishing no jutsu, but I am impressed that you are able to. You're not the only one, he said, forming a familiar hand sign, and two clones appeared. Let's see if your eyes can tell which one is the real me. Naruto smirked as he glanced at Orochimaru for a short time, before returning his attention to his teacher. Sure, let's do this, he said, running forward. He was about to veer right straight to the real body when the one of the middle cut him off with a punch in the jaw. He would be flying if he didn't duck under the punch and swept the clone under his feet and proceed to do what he think he would do correctly. Konoha Dai Shampoo leaves great whirlwind, he said as he repeatedly spun, knocking the clone focus and dispel, and returned to his feet and promptly blocked the other clone's strike. With the quick, intense burst of power, he lifted the clone off the fist and held him over his head and slammed him on the ground, making him explode like cloud. Ryuk watched as from his spot with focused gaze on his prodigy student. Incredible, he simply thought. The blonde went exited the cloud and waited for it to clear. It wasn't long, he grinned. Yet again, I am impressed with the display I have witnessed. It's really a shame that I have to take up to a notch, the Ryuk said, vanishing from everyone's sight. Yet again, appearing behind Naruto with a handing the blonde this time, and connect Naruto was sent across the ground. Your way out of your league, kid. At the sight of a friendly being black-handed by their teacher, each of the future Sanin clenching their tiny fist in anger. I know you three want to jump into the fight and help Naruto-kun, but this is his fight, Tobirama said, keeping an eye close to the blonde's performance. Sooner look at her granduncle. What do you mean his fight? Naruto-kun is fighting a Jonin one-on-one. It's impossible for Naruto's skill to defeat a Jonin. At least let three of us join. We all might have a chance of victory, a female blonde said, looking at Naruto being overpowered by one of Ryuko's specialized kunai knives. I'm sure Ryuko-san won't take things too far, Hosen said, looking at the man who was currently sweeping his knife at Naruto, focusing him on defensive. Naruto-kun knows what he is doing. Soon had a chance living with a caring for the boy. The past year has taught me this, the young man said, putting his hand on the small shoulder. Tsunade just found as he looked at Jiraiya and Orochimaru, hoping they would feel the same way as her. Jiraiya's attention was only at the fight, having never seen something so intense in his life. He watched his friend jumping over Uchi-sensei, kick the man as he backhanded, yeah, kick his ass, he mumbled under his breath. Meanwhile, Orochimaru watched as his friend, curious about his bloodline and his. I know, I was in delusion. I always thought it was a sight of a flash of orange light was changed the door of his iris, the blue to purple. But it was his bloodline. What is the name of that magnificent eye? He thought, continued to stare into the yes. The fucking leech is moving. Continued to stare into the moving eyes of his friend, finding them amazing every second with gaze into their ripple beautiful. Naruto kept dodging Ryuko's present strike as he really wanted to cut the blonde with a knife, and it wasn't Ryuko's strike as he knew. He knew throwing his knife. Naruto wasn't expecting this, grateful as he was able to dodge with only one log, as he simply cut along his right cheek. That wasn't all, Ryuko thought, as for a surprise as the Jonin died. Jonin did dynamic entry as kicked Naruto in the side of his head. It thought it wasn't meant to be. Naruto's leaned back, maneuvering himself around the outstretched leg and delivered a kick right to his teacher, Baby Maker. Yeah. Every adult male in the vicinity groaned in pain at the witness Ichiryu get kicked in the nuts. Ooh, even I felt that, the young Uzumaki thought, hoping back a couple of meters. Meanwhile, the ball busted Johnny in crutch as his knees, as his eye shut in pain. He couldn't even think. The pain was so intense. It wasn't so simple. The real life civilian nut kick. No, that was fiction. Ninja base faster than regular civilian can see the nut kick. Either way, the pain affected us all. Kami, I hope he's alright. Naruto mumbled his head as his Rinnegan deactivating. Sensei, are you alright? He asked louder. Of course, he's not alright. You kicked him in the nuts. What man would be right after that? Kushina son. Both on the other side of the other and the inside. Naruto was truly sorry. He didn't mean basically punched the man in the gun. The Bond heard his sensei groan and mumbled something. What was that, sensei? He asked. I said I'm gonna kill you. Ryuko mumbled again, raising his fist, already going to proceed, completing hands. I'm gonna kill you. Return. Piercing ball, sorry, punishing ball. Fuck you all. I cannot say the fucking name. Lightning began to crackle around Ryuko's mouth as before he hacked it out. The electric ball headed toward the blonde. It was all happened in the span of 3 seconds. The blonde should have known the Jonin would have reacted the way he was right now. He should have known any man would be furious after receiving from an incident that was occurred 5 minutes ago. Well, It was good thing he knew that was going to happen. He just not so fast. Thus he fully dodged the attack as the ball passed him. As he continued to travel to the fortress exchange, electricity looked in his right arm, radiously useless. Time being, Ryuko didn't waste a second, vanished and reappearing on Naruto's right, kicking and numbing his arm, sending the boy into the forest, stopping only after he hit the tree. Yet again, the Jonin went through a set of hand signs, sit on Mizuno Yuri water spear. This time Ryuko spat a large water spear straight to Naruto. Naruto's eye widened upon hitting the tree. It was impossible for them to avoid any. Upon seeing a large spear of water heading toward them, he quickly moved his head to cover with his hand as he quickly splintered a small wet piece of wood. Fly everywhere, get up! His mother screamed as he quickly got up and moved around trees as 5 kunai embedded themselves in the tree. While behind the tree, Naruto held his numb arm. He looking around and the tree, only to dodge another thrown kunai. Okay, so he's just waiting for me to come behind the tree. Great, he thought with a scream. Well, this is time to get original. He thought about taking 3 shurikens. He did a black flip. Fuck. Back flip. Yes, back flip. His feet landing on the tree before he kept hopping up the trees. He went around the trees and landing on the landing. Fuck, I don't know how long I can take it. My fucking space is already gone. The Jonin waited the moment before he looked up as the seen the shuriken coming toward him. He effortlessly deflected them, seeing Naruto coming at him as his danger sense when as he quickly jumped back right before Naruto burst through the cloud and orbs of silver soaring chakra that immediately destroyed the ground, kicking up a lot of dirt. Ryuko was about to jump into the cloud dirt when a hand grabbed it. I think that's enough, Uchi-san. I have seen all the necessary, Tobirama said, catching on Ryuko's arm, keeping him at furthering overtaking attack on Naruto. At the point Naruto emerged the dirt, could his Renegan reactive? I'm sorry, Sensei, for what I have done. It was not my intention that happened. It just did, Naruto said with his hand in surroundings. Ryuko nodded after a minute. Good, now I have some great news to unravel. What just occurred? It seems Konohagakure has never been a part of the war, and they never seem to stop their militarizing their army. I thought I'd disagree with their action. I'm glad I caught the fault intel. It would have been cause problem if we attacked Kumo, the second Hokage said, causing the Jonin and Chunin area to look at him surprised. Naruto look of realization hit his face, remembering even through his he hated history that Kumo was never in the second ninja war. Either was Kiri or Konoha, Sana, Iwa, and Ami. He thought, wondering when they will enter the picture. Maybe not for years to come. Wait, wasn't Shoto with the Hokage during this war? He didn't know. He did the ninja die, as did the second Hokage die during the first war. This question came through into the past year, never answered, for even his mother did know the answer. The only logical explanation would be that his traveling back in time changed things further along the past. He shook his head as everything kept getting confused even more and more. Thinking as thought about the moving about the more as he wished to leave alone. He stopped as he felt a hand on his shoulder to extend hand along. Belonged to his adopted brother. Excellent fight. Most surprising what the technique in the end. I have never seen anything like it, he asked, causing Naruto to unnoticeably simped in realization. The blonde went through dozens of responses in his head before he picked the most likely. It's most likely the reason I've been training so hard for the past year is the fruit of my efforts. He spoke with a foxy grin in place. You may have lost the fox, but you kept everything that makes a fox a fox. Your cunningness and deceptionness had only continued to grow ever since the disappearance of the QB. Kushina commented on Naruto's own response. Naruto grinned widely as hearing his mother. So does that mean the others and I are part of the new team? The man nodded. Allow Naruto to finally smile. This is good, now I can do this, he said, punching the man's side playfully, of course. You bastard, why did you make me fight Uji-sensei? Hosen chuckled. This was Sensei's idea, I just wanted to. I went along with it, he said quickly, surrounded, knowing that because they lived with the boy, the prank would never stop. The Tobian then looked at the two, mostly Hosen, glaring at him for so easily betraying him. He nervously chuckled, slowly backing up as Naruto and Tsunade stalked toward him. Well, I wasn't planning on it or anything. He was a, hey, what's over there? He said, pointing at the forest. Unfortunately for fortunately, depending on who are you want to be, children locked in the foothold because they fooled the second was already they were fooled. The second was already gone. I can believe he got me. Naruto thought in shame. The blonde looked at each other. Go get him. That was the female. Blonde nodded and proceeded to chase down her grand uncle. Now that's settled. I have to congratulate you on your performance. I know you could handle whatever I throw at you. If it was to you, I would recommend you entirely skip being a genin, Ryuko said, panting the blonde in the back. I wonder how you gained the strength the first place, he said with a hand in his chin, thinking about the Naruto obviously chuckled. Hey, yeah, I guess I was born with it, he said, nervously laughing off as his hand rubbing his own head. Okay, Uchi-san, stop making Naruto nervous. Just let's be glad he's on our side, Ozen said as he began to walk away from the academy. I have important matter to attend at the moment. Naruto-kun, I'll see you at home. And the rest of you, I'll see you tomorrow at the training ground 7. What you did here will pale in the comparison what is going to put you through, he said, almost vanishing with a suspicion. What did he mean by that? Orochimaru asked, waking up to Naruto, Jiraiya and the side. Naruto struggled. I don't know. We are going to have an even tougher training than we have went through. You think that hell's going to happen? You think what the hell was that earlier? I had no idea you had that kind of strength. Jiraiya playfully pushed Naruto. Yes, and yes, you're right. How did you get them? You are a bastard for using them on just those during those spar, Orochimaru said, slapping Naruto on the back of the head. With that hit, Naruto dropped in the ground, exhausted, finally letting him. I wasn't expecting that. What the hell did you do? He's dead. No, you killed him. Jiraiya, his own beside Naruto's body. Orochimaru said, drop at the looked around to make sure he was alone. He sighed and relieved to see nobody was around. I don't want anybody to know. I hang our idiot. Calm down, idiot. He's just unconscious. Our previous training and fight drained his energy, Orochimaru said, shaking his head as he walked to prepare for tomorrow. Jiraiya blushed in embarrassment. I knew that, he said, looking up and noticed the body was around. Orochimaru was about to went to continue training. I might as well do the same, the white-haired boy said, as finding a better reason to return to the orphanage. Thanks to his parents dying in the beginning of the war, half a year ago, Naruto's body was left alone in the academy training ground. A week later, Naruto sat in the tree inside of the training ground 7. At 7 in the morning, he always be the first one to meeting place. The Orochimaru would appeared, calling his name in 3, 2, 1. And there he goes, Naruto. Naruto, Orochimaru said in the right on cue. After that, Tsunade would appear, telling Orochimaru to be quiet. Orochimaru, be quiet. It's too early for that. Tsunade said, sitting under the tree, resting her own head. With that, they would be alone for 10 minutes, Naruto resting on the tree, Tsunade also under the tree, and Orochimaru finally giving a calling Naruto, taking the scroll to read. After the 10 minutes, Jiraiya would appear, bangs under his eye that would promptly drop to the floor 5 feet away from the others. Of course, nobody paid attention until he would raise his head to call Naruto. 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 Then, like always, Tsunade would go in frustration to say, "He's still not talking to you, either of you," she said, making more statement than question. But Jiraiya would always reply, "Why not?" The Orochimaru would say, "Because you left him unconscious at the academy a week ago," the royal-looking boy said to the matter of the facility. "What? You left him first?" Jiraiya yelled, crossing his arm. This time everything was different. As usual, Naruto would remain quiet until Tsunade would slap them both back in the head. Would the both of you just fucking shut up? It still doesn't get rid the fact you both left me there. You lucky. Tsunade returned and picked me up hours later, the male blonde finally talking. The two boys looked down sleepishly while Tsunade grinned in apparent victory. By now Horizon appeared. "Are you ready for another hard day of training?" he asked sadistically. At all the children go in pain. "Sensei, can we take a break from the training? I'm still sore from the yesterday's exercise." Horizon chuckled. "Oh, come on, you should know my response by now." Yeah. The soreness will go away with more training. You know, Sensei, that isn't true. More training will just make me more sore," Tsunade said, pointing at her arm crossed. Horizon frowned for a second. "Well, good thing we aren't training today. We have missions," he said. "Really, Sensei?" Naruto said, appearing at Horizon's side faster than anybody could see. What is it? What is it?" He repeated the question those many times before. Tsunade covered her mouth with her hand. "Calm down, you fool. He would have told us already if you weren't talking," she said, struggling to keep Naruto still as thrashing around. "Grab his leg," she told Orochimaru and Jiraiya. They tried to hold his leg down, but Naruto went to kick Jiraiya in the chin, Orochimaru in the side of his head, substituting himself from Jiraiya's gasp for breath. "Damn, you got rid of you, Suni. Damn, you got rid on Damn, you got a grip on you, Sushi-chan," he said, rubbing his jaw. Tsunade let Jiraiya go, feeling he wasn't thrashing and glaring at Naruto. As soon as Jiraiya let and speed toward Naruto, Satoru grabbed the back of his collar. "Calm down, Jiraiya-kun. Naruto-kun didn't mean to kick you in the chin," he said, looking at Orochimaru. "See him out cold." "Damn, Naruto, you knocked Orochimaru-kun out." Now, looking at Naruto with surprise, the blonde was waving his hand dismissively. Yeah. Now the mission was as God as my witness. If isn't meaning sure I'm gonna kill her," he said with a serious look. "Okay, we're gonna do mission. We have to escort a diplomat to the capital of a rival country," and Satoru said. "It's a C-rank escort. Does it satisfy you?" Naruto nodded. The blonde asked. "The other mission?" the blonde asked. "Yes, from there we'll travel from near to border of Kazunokuni to meet an informant." "Really, a spy? Awesome," Jiraiya said, shouting his arms. Tsunade sighed from her spot beside Orochimaru. She had been looking his head, making sure it was serious despite the outcome. After signing, she was tossed the bottle, smelling salty by Horizon. Orochimaru shot up. "Thank you. My head. Ah, sticks my head." He groaned in pain. "Okay now, Orochimaru, shut up about ready. We get ready for the mission." Naruto said, leaving in Shushan, only to return a second later. "Where do we meet up?" 20 minutes later. Naruto sat at the dango stand. As he sat sitting there at the past 10 minutes, he quickly 30, sticking a dango beside him. He leaned back, rubbing his stomach. Fully sweet dango. Ah, this was the best dango I ever had. "What's your secret, Ami-chan?" he told the daughter of the shopkeeper. "Naruto-kun, you know I can give the secret even if you want to work here," she said, cutting him off. Ami was a young girl similar to Ayame. She had a short blue hair and light purple eyes. She was only 8. years old and helped her mother with a dango stand. She wore a family dark purple dress and apron over that. She was 2 years older than Naruto. Naruto was shorter than She was shorter than him by about an inch or two, just like between Ayame and Naruto. Amy and Naruto treated each other like siblings. Her mother adored Naruto, and he would constantly walk her from school and protect her from the bullies, and even gave her a couple of lessons in hand-to-hand combat. Better to protect herself if wasn't present. Ah, come on, Amy-chan, don't give me that part of the recipe. I'll think of the rest. No, yes, no, yes. Yes, I promise. I won't tell anybody. Don't you have a mission to go to? The lunatic said, crossing her arm. Oh shit, Naruto said, tossing the money in the counter before vanishing into station. Amy collected the money and counter, shaking her head. I'm telling mom. The blue-eyed boy gone through the streets. It was a way bigger than more normal population he used to. He was running so fast that he was surprised to find himself on the surface 2 feet in the air, his leg in front of him. Whoa, what is happening? He thought, quickly righting himself, landing on his feet. He could feel somebody's hand clutching his collar. The blonde looked to the right to follow a cream-colored hand. Dark red sleeves, what already knew was going to be elaborate royal kimono. He continued to travel up to the sleeve and noticed the kimono had high collar, and continued to realize keeping her. She had also a clip her bangs and her eyes. She went from her tag wet and the ship, and she remotely understand the seal. I see. You have an interest in Funjutsu, not likely an Uzumaki child. Not unlike an Uzumaki child. Naruto heard his mother gasp in Mito-sama. Naruto, you have to be on your best behavior. The blue-eyed boy heard his mother tell him. The gaining glump appeared, not finding the necessary respect. Thinking like a fox. Are you an Uzumaki Mito-sama? He asked. I am. So please, no Sama, you'll make me feel old. So humble. Okay, how do I ask this without surrendering a tag? Disrespect, he thought, taking a quick second. No disrespect, Mito-san. But why are you holding my collar? She smirked and let him go. Because I have the skill to. I have much to talk to you about Uzumaki Naruto. I'll be waiting when you return from a mission. Come to me in my manor. I'm sure you'll find the way without asking anybody. She said, walking away. Naruto was left in the middle of the dirt street, speechless about what just happened. What just happened? Just happened because he was sincere, because he didn't mean to. He was thought, you just met Mito-sama. She was always been the strongest wielder of the Rinnegan since the age of 6 parts. She was also the first Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, Kushina said, dropping the bomb. Naruto raised his eyebrow and walked to the south gate, knowing he couple of minutes. We are the second, me and third. I wonder where the fox never told me this. You're not mad that I never told you I was the second content of the kids. I know the piece of the information. Only question I know why the Kyuubi was gone. If I'm correct, Mito-sama, and you have the Rinnegan, yet the Kyuubi still is in you and not gone. But with me, the fox is gone. He thought. Ask Mito-sama. I'm sure you can trust her with the information like that. Are you sure if I ask her about that? If I have many, I am from the future and the world raise further questions. Just trust me on this one. Pay attention or you'll end up walking to the gate, the red-haired said. Now her eye began to blur as he walked. His mother cleared the path at the same time, the gain wall. He immediately refused to sign really, breaking a turn. Tsunade laughed. I told you, he fucking hit the wall, yes. Tsunade laughed. I told you he didn't fucking hit the wall. Sonare laughed. I told you he wouldn't hit the wall. You both owe me 50 Rio, she said, holding out her hand for both. Owe me 50 Rio, she said, holding her hand. Whoa, Sonade. Sonade won a bet. Now to thought, looking around in the world of ending. Who is going to die? While then Uzumaki was panicking, Saratobi looked at his team. Alright, you're going to have to wait the moment while I to kick got there to the river deployment there. 3 minutes later. The first unit team, the 5 unit team deployment have been walking for 3 hours. The river country for